Okay, hi everyone. So again, I'm Smithy Q, and this is game 19 of the annotated game section. And then again, this game's going to be a little bit different. The white player is rated 2300, and the black player, unless I wrote it down wrong or my source is wrong, was rated 1300. So there's literally a 1000 point rating point difference between these players, about as big as you can get. And this is like real over the board ratings, not online. But what we're going to see is two things. One, we're going to see how a strong player outplays a weaker player, but also we're going to see perhaps the first warning that I've always been harping on development this entire time. Time is everything. Time is everything. But we're going to see Black basically just developing normal and getting into a losing position very, very quickly. And so this is, one of those caveats is uh, principles are important, but we have to still back them up with calculation. It's not enough just to see a developing move and then develop, is what I'm trying to say. So let's look at what happens. Both sides are developing early on. Now white plays d4, and after e takes d4, bishop c4. Again, this is an extraordinarily powerful, extraordinarily good way of playing. This is known as the Scotch Gambit. And again, hopefully you can see how strong this is, just in the idea that we have open lines. Once this pawn moves, we can move the knight either here or here, or we can play c3 to trade it. We're going to castle. We can basically develop every piece in just one move. We've already controlled the center, all for the cost of a pawn. And to be perfectly honest, it's pretty easy to win that pawn back at almost any time. And there's a lot of traps for black that black could fall into. For instance, black in this position plays bishop goes to b4 check. White plays the move that he wants to play, c3, takes, takes. And so, again, we've already got three pieces developed by move 6. We're ready to castle. Even something like queen goes to b3, trying to hit f7, very, very strong. And so what does white do? Oh, sorry, what does black do in this position? Well, black, he says, I bet I should develop, so let's develop. Knight goes to f6. But what black apparently did not do was calculate. Because whenever you have a knight on f6 and there's a pawn right here on e4, the question should be asked, what happens if the pawn moves forward? That's what happened. The pawn moved forward to e5. Now the knight has a choice. Where does the knight want to go? I mean, besides just going straight back and getting defeat. If you go to knight g4, there's hopefully a familiar tactic. You've got bishop takes f7, king takes, the knight moves. Look, the discovery attack on that knight. After you slide back, what happened? White has regained the pawn. Black king is going to be forever weak. White still has a lead in time. White is still ready to castle, and black is basically done for in this position. So knight goes to g4 doesn't work. In the game, he actually ends up playing knight goes to e4. Makes a lot of sense. Targeting this guy, right? Bishop is pinning it, knight's attacking it. Woohoo. Now, again, in a previous game, I shared the idea of stopping d5 because the black had another move. Okay, sure, he'd probably cash in on c3, but d5, hitting the bishop, controlling the knight, also looks really, really tempting. So white ends up playing queen goes to d5. We can see this knight is undefended, f7's undefended. That's not very good, and white is just done. Sorry, black is just done. He throws in a check first, but still it's the same problem. Knight's hanging, bishop's hanging, pawn is hanging. What do you do? He ends up castling. Queen takes e4, and we're up a piece. Now this is pretty common. That is, especially for, again, the adult, beginner, improver type people, to get a position like this, where you've won a piece out of the opening, woohoo, but there's still a game. What happens if your opponent doesn't just resign? In this game, black does not resign. He starts creating counterattacks, creating threats. Or at least he tries to. He plays knight takes e5, which is really, really interesting. What's the idea? Well, after takes, he plays d6. You gotta be very careful. Because if this knight were to move just, back willy-nilly, rook slides over. Oh, and now we can see the problem. Our king and queen is on the open e file and in a very poor alignment. So that means we can't just jump forward. And so you need, sorry, just retreat, play a normal move, in other words. And what that means is also you need to have, sorry, let me back up. After black plays knight takes e5, and then you recapture, you have to know what you're going to do against d6. Otherwise, you shouldn't grab it, right? Again, these tactical tricks is how we lose games. Now, white, because he was 2300, figured out what to do. He plays knight takes f7. We can see the problem now is that if we try and put the same pin on the king and queen, we've got, ooh, we take black's queen with discovered check, and that's just all she wrote. So black can't do that. Black ends up taking the rook back. Oh, sorry, taking the knight back with the rook. Now notice, white is actually in no hurry to do anything on this with this pin. Absolutely no hurry at all. And this is a really good mark of a strong player. We're not going to rush. This bishop is amazing. I can exchange it at any point. Instead, I'm just going to castle. Black doesn't really know what to do, ends up playing rook goes to f8, so maybe he can recapture the queen. But is there any threat? Not really. Maybe there's something against f2, but remember, the rook is pinned, so really, there's no threats at all. So let's just play rook e1. Maybe we'll bring the queen all the way down, exchange queens, rep a piece. Life is good. Black ends up playing bishop goes to d7. Maybe he wants to go bishop goes to c6 and then have all this pressure on the queen side. Again, black is still losing, but there's some practical chances. So we should probably not allow bishop goes to c6. So how do we do that? Let's just take on b7 because now the bishop can't get there, right? And so notice how white calmly castled. White is finished development, and even when white grabs a pawn, the idea isn't just to go grab a pawn for the sake of a pawn. It's to stop this bishop from doing something active. What do you do now, black? He ends up playing rook goes to e8. And again, white's not grabbing pawns. White's just not exchanging at the first go. No, brings the bishop out. Now, the rook is defended, fully developed. We still have that pin. We're still at material. Life is really good. So do you see kind of this method that the stronger players are doing? They're not trying to force things. They're not having to grab like 1,000 pawns. No, finishing development. And life is good. And it's here at this point, black, he finally gets out of the pin, and so white finally takes. Queen takes f7, and now, because we're basically fully developed, sure, we have this rook, but if we move this rook somewhere, then black might take on a2. And so, no rush. Now at this point, we're absolutely free to grab as much material as we want. We take on c7, black exchanges, black plays, queen goes to f5, but now very simple tactics. And that's a back rank check. So again, this is not one of those all-time games that's going to be written, in the history books. No, this is a pretty classic example of a strong player outplaying a weaker player. And how'd that happen? Well, it started back here, where black, he was following the opening principles, but he didn't calculate, right? What do you do if e5? e5 is really friggin' strong. So you need to play d6 to defend it. Makes perfect sense. You're still controlling the center. Maybe this bishop come out, and then you can play knight f6 on the very next move. This is how you should be playing. Instead, he takes a moment. He doesn't calculate. He gets into a really tough position. He ends up being down a piece. Now, notice what white does. Again, he doesn't panic. He notices what the tactics are. He doesn't force anything. He's just going to castle. Improves all of his pieces. And when he grabs a pawn, he grabs it because it's stopping black's black's attack, not just to grab more material. Right? Because again, in this position, you're already up a piece, and you're going to win the exchange as well. So you're going to be able to hold rook. So there's no need to immediately grab pawns until you're fully developed, essentially. That's what happens. You're fully developed. Then we start grabbing material, and then that's game. Right? It's a very, very sweet process. And okay, sure, a 2300 against a much lower rated player, it makes it look pretty easy. But you can follow the exact same formula when you're the higher rated player, right? You might not be 2300, you might be 800, doesn't matter. If you're 800 against a 600, a 500, whatever it is, right? Follow the ideas, and hopefully that'll be helpful. Okay, so that's it for here. We're in the final countdown. So I'm Smithy Q. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.